All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Somananda here. Nice to see you all. So we're about to begin in a minute. First of all, I'm very happy to see that we have a very beautiful group today. Everyone's ready for this meditation. But before we go into the meditation itself, I'd like to discuss with you a little bit, or share with you a little bit, the information about the moon. From a spiritual and especially tantric perspective, the moon, with all its phases, was always considered to be something very important. It is interesting to see how, from an astronomical scientific perspective, the moon is usually perceived simply as a satellite to planet Earth and not much more than that. While from a spiritual perspective, the moon is considered to be one of the luminaries, the two famous luminaries, the sun and the moon, and therefore it represents a very important aspect of energy, or a source of energy, which has been considered with a lot of respect for thousands of years. For example, if we study cultures such as the Indian culture, the Tibetan culture, if we look at cultures from South America, Central America, like the Mayans, the Aztecs, and others, if we look at the Egyptian ancient culture, everywhere we look around the world, we find that throughout history, the moon and the sun were considered to be much more than just some spots in the sky. They were considered to be sources of energy, and they were considered to be actually divinities in their own right. That's why you find a lot of sun worship in various cultures all over the world, and you also find worship to the moon. The sun was usually perceived to be a positive plus aspect of energy, which means it was a deity that was considered to be a masculine deity, while the moon was always considered to be a feminine deity. So we have the moon goddess, and that's why we find the moon many times presented in the tantric tradition in the form of a goddess. Why is that important? Because when you look at the different teachings of Tantra, for example, in South India, the famous Siddhas, the Siddha masters, were all practicing, and still do until today, a variety of practices, pujas, and various techniques revolving around the cycles of the moon. Of course, the moon, each day in the cycle of the moon, represent a special energy, actually. This is what is known in Tantra as the science of the nityas. This is something we study in more details in other courses, but each day represents a different energy that the moon projects. And yes, according to the tantric teachings, the moon has its own independent energy light. Unlike what astronomy tells us that the moon only reflects the sun's energy or the sun's light, in the teachings of spirituality, especially the tantric teachings, it is known that the moon is projecting its own light. And this light and energy that the moon projects every day along the cycle of the moon can be meditated upon, it can be utilized in various practices. However, we're going to discuss today two of the most important phases of the moon, which are phases that you're all familiar with, obviously, when the moon reaches its full, and of course, when the moon reaches its empty stage. This one is called usually the new moon, but in the Indian tradition, it is referred to as the black moon. There is a reason why they call it the black moon and not new moon, because according to the ancient geocentric understanding of reality, they considered that the moon, when it is not full, when it is the empty, so to speak, actually it is not that it has no energy, it has a certain energy of void, which is represented by the black color. And that energy is very powerful, actually. So it's not that it's a new moon, it is actually the black moon. It is a moon which has a black color according to the ancient tradition because of its reflection of the void energy. Now, these things may seem like superficial points to you, perhaps, because we, coming from the Western tradition, we don't usually pay much attention to this. We consider it to be just some random info. However, It has a very big impact when we talk about it from a spiritual perspective. By the way, this was also considered very important from the teachings of ancient astrology, alchemy, and magic. All those ancient sciences, which were actually sciences, they were not nonsense or mumbo jumbo, they were considered to be real sciences. And this is opening the door to a very big discussion that might surprise many Westerners. But the idea was always that whatever you do in your daily life, you will always consider what is the phase the moon is in order to decide on the various activities, decisions, or big projects that you will take. If there is a marriage to take place, if you start building a new house, if you're doing any important activity, or even a minor activity, many times the position of the moon would be considered in ancient times. And again, I'm coming back to the essence here. The two main phases of the moon that were considered the most important to consider when you are about to take any decision or do anything important were the full moon and the black moon or new moon. A few words about these two phases of the moon, which are so important. First of all, today we have the full moon, more or less, depends where you are located in the planet today, where you are in the world. But we are very close. The effect of the full moon, just to be clear, is already very prevalent 18 hours before and after the full moon maximum, which is altogether 36 hours. So in that period of time, of 18 hours before and after the moment of the full moon, depending on your location, so it's like a ribbon of energy that flows along the plane, along the world, depending where you are located. When that time comes, then the full moon's energy is already in full swing. And that is why, for example, it is very well known in Tantra that for beginners in Tantra, it is actually usually recommended to avoid having sexual union or sexual tantric practices 18 hours before and after the moment of the full moon. You might ask, why not? Why not make love in the full moon? I mean, if you look at Hollywood movies, always it is a full moon when there's some romantic scene and all that. So why avoid it, actually? The answer is very simple, because when the moon is full, this brings us to the understanding of what happens when the moon is full. At that time, the energy of the moon is in its maximum. That means 18 hours before and after already this is happening. And in that time, we have actually a very strong influence on the second chakra, Swadhisthana chakra. And as many of you know, the second chakra is where we find the sexuality of the human being, but more importantly, we also find the emotional dimension of the human being. And when a person is trying to make love tantrically for the purpose of the tantric results, we always want to have good sublimation, control of the sexual energy, and we want to have a tantric experience. We don't want to have a loss of control. That's usually the principle which is guiding. And when we have the full moon, again, the period of time before and after 18 hours, because the energy is so powerful, what we encounter is an overflow of energy that can affect Swadhisthana chakra. Because Swadhisthana chakra is actually ruled by the moon. It is very much dominated by the energy of the moon. In other words, most human beings on this planet are extremely sensitive on their second chakra to the position of the moon and what the moon is doing. And the one moment, or 36 hours, when the moon is in its full time, that's the time which brings the ultimate sensitivity on Swadhisthana chakra. And then making love at that point, if you're a beginner, may bring a loss of energy, out of control, and by doing that, we are actually negating the objective of the tantric practice. However, those who are more advanced and very spiritual and already control the energy perfectly, the full moon time is actually considered beneficial for a lot of reasons. For example, the Tibetans always do a lot of their practices, initiations, and various rituals exactly at the time of the full moon. In the tantric tradition, many tantrics have done a variety of rituals. The Siddhas of South India would do many of their pujas exactly at the time of the full moon because they wanted to benefit from this intense energy that can be harnessed for the purpose of the ritual or for the purpose of worship or for the purpose of subliming the energy upwards. However, when we want to do this kind of work with the full moon, if you're advanced, it's easy for you perhaps to control this energy. But what do you do if you're not so advanced? What do you do if you want, even as an advanced person, to have an additional support? The answer is we do a practice which is focusing on the yang energy. As many of you remember, the energy as described in the yogic and tantric teaching, always, any type of energy will always have two polarity to it, the yin and the yang, the plus and the minus. The yin is the minus aspect, the plus is the yang aspect. That's why at the time of the full moon, the energy is excessively yin because it is an energy at the level of Swadhisthana chakra, and because the moon itself is representing the feminine aspect, the goddess, as I said, as opposed to the sun, which is the yang, the plus aspect. And because of that, when the moon is full, it has an abundance, an overflow of yin energy. And we want to utilize this amazing source of energy, which can be harnessed for such wonderful spiritual things. But to do that, we need to engage from our side to bring about a lot of yang energy. It's like a container. The yang energy is like a container that can channel this amazing energy of the moon, the goddess energy, for spiritual purpose. What would be the ideal way of doing it? It's what we call in Tantra the full moon yang meditation. Ideally, if we would be physically in the same space, we would do the meditation in a spiral configuration. It's called a full moon yang spiral meditation. And I would put all of you in a configuration of a spiral standing up and arranging you in an astrological specific sequence. And that would make it even more powerful. However, we can still obtain at least 80 or more % of the effects of the full moon yang meditation, even if we do it online remotely right now. Of course, we won't be able to utilize the astrological configuration, we won't be standing up, and we won't be physically in the same place. However, we can still benefit tremendously from utilizing yang energy together in a meditation today. And just to complete the explanation about the phases of the moon and why is it so important, we need to also look at the opposite of the full moon, which is the black moon. The black moon is a mysterious, unique moment in time. And out of the 12, usually 12 black moons we have per year, right? Because you have once every month the new moon and the full moon. So the black or new moon we have once a month usually. And when that happens, then each moment or each month when you have that black moon happening, that moment is called in the tantric tradition the Knight of Shiva. This is in Sanskrit called the Shiva Ratri. Ratri means night, Shiva is the god Shiva, and this is the Knight of Shiva. The question would be, why would you call it the Shiva Ratri, the Knight of Shiva? And the answer is quite interesting, because when the full moon takes place, we have the full energy of the goddess. And that makes it a very feminine, as we said, yin energy that we want to harness for the purpose of enlightenment. That would be the ideal case. But when we have the zero fullness of the moon, the opposite of it, which is the black moon, then we have a different energy. What would be the opposite of Shakti? It would be Shiva. And Shiva is represented by the tantrics. It is a representative of the void. The void is the essence of consciousness. That's why most people don't understand enlightenment, because most people think enlightenment is a person who is just very wise or very sweet or gives a lot of hugs, or a person who is, I don't know, a very, nice guru with a big beard and that talks very nicely. That's not what enlightenment is about. Enlightenment is the ability to connect through the crown chakra with that which is beyond manifestation. What would that be? It would be the void. That is why in Buddhism, the enlightenment is referred to as shunya or shunyata in Sanskrit, which literally means void. That's the enlightenment. But it's very difficult to understand. What does it mean, void? It means that in that moment in time when a human being can access the void, you're actually reaching a moment where there is zero energy, zero movement of the mind, and what you have is zero. That's actually what shunyata means. It means the zero. It is the 0 point. And at that point, there is no more energy, there is no more thought, there is no more mind, there is only the nirvana, there is only the shunya, there is only the bliss of the moment. And that is very hard to understand intellectually. And even if you think you do understand it intellectually, it's very hard to experience it unless you reach to that level of consciousness. And when we do practice with the Knight of Shiva, in the Knight of Shiva, we use the worship of the Shiva consciousness, the Shiva as the divinity, as that ultimate level of consciousness, in order to reach enlightenment. That's the whole point of it. And that's why when the moon is in its empty state, in the black moon condition, then we have an opening to the void. And that's why when it is the Shiva Ratri, the night of Shiva, is celebration of consciousness. It is the celebration of enlightenment. And that's why the yogis, the tantrics, the Siddha masters, and many others, they use the Shiva Ratri time to meditate, to worship, to go into devotion for Shiva, and eventually the hope is to reach high states of consciousness. And the interesting point here that I want to conclude with is that out of those 12 times along the year when we have the black moon time, the Shiva Ratri, one of them, according to the Vedic astrology, is considered the most powerful of all those 12. And that one takes place usually either at the end of February or beginning of March. And this time it would be exactly in 2 weeks. For many of you, it will be between the 1st to the 2nd of March. You need to look and research exactly when it comes for you in your exact location. But when that comes, and it's coming about 2 weeks, this one is called the Maha Shiva Ratri. Maha means the great. This is the great night of Shiva. And it is great because at that time, the window that opens us to enlightenment, to the void, is the biggest window in the whole year. And that's why we celebrate the Mahashivaratri, we meditate, and that's why we're actually going to have a very special event. We're actually doing here in Nicaragua the Shaktipat Retreat, which we're going to start in the first few days exactly with the Mahashivaratri event, where we're going to do exactly this worship, practice, and special meditation for enlightenment in the black night, the black moon, the night of Shiva. But that's something that will come later on. Today, we are having the time of the full moon, and with this full moon, we are going to utilize the energy of the full moon that is at the moment very strongly resonating on Swadhisthana chakra, in the lower chakras, but especially Swadhisthana, and we're going to sublime it by using the yang aspect of energy to control this, to contain the energy of the full moon and channel it all to the crown chakra, Sahasrara. And that's why this meditation can feel for many of you as if you from the top of the head upwards like this, like some kind of a pull, like you're being sucked into a vortex above the top of the head, as we're going to push the energy of the full moon and channel it from the lower centers, especially second chakra for you, where we have the genital area, and we're going to flush it along the spine and throughout the whole body, and we will focus it at the top of the head, and it will pull you up towards higher levels of consciousness. That is the purpose of today's meditation, the full moon yang meditation. How are we going to make the meditation more yang? First of all, I will support you with the meditation today to make sure that it is going to be controlled for reaching upwards and not chaotic. But more than that, I'm going to also utilize some music. In the background, I believe Ziggy probably already allowed me to share, right? Okay. So I'm going to play some music in a few minutes. And as we start with the music that I'm choosing is specifically music that enhances this yang energy. You might be surprised, some of you, that it sounds a bit techno or some kind of intense bada bum type of music. It's just a choice. It could be other types of music, but this music, on purpose, from experience, we're using it in this way. It helps because it's very upbeat type of music. And yes, why not? As we are modern tantrics and we have technology and music and, I don't know, iPhones and all kinds of things we can use, even Zoom today. I mean, who could have thought of it 1,000 years ago that people from every corner of the world can join together in a virtual space and do yoga and tantra together? So why not? We are, as modern tantrics, utilizing whatever is available to us to achieve this goal. So I'm going to also use music which is more modern style, a bit more upbeat type of music to push the energy up for you. And this music is chosen specifically for full moon yang meditation. And it is music that I've used many times before with great success, because one of its main features is that it generates more yang energy. It changes the energy to become more yang, and it sublimates the energy a lot and brings it to Sahasrara. So the combination of the music and my support for you today will make this full moon yang meditation the most powerful. Notice the following. If you are perhaps not so pure, maybe you're a smoker, maybe you eat unhealthy food, I hope you're not, but if you have some impurities in your life, it's okay, it happens, but I'm sure all of you are working towards becoming more pure, more elevated, more spiritual in your life. But in case you may have some impurities, then you may notice, because of the intensity of this meditation, that you may feel some purification effects. Stay with it as long as you can. If it's too much for you, then take a break, lie down for a minute or two, feel more comfortable. When you feel better, sit up again and join us for continuing the meditation. You don't have to take a break for the whole duration, just take a break for a few minutes and join us whenever you feel comfortable again. Remember, during this meditation, it's very important that you keep your spine straight so the energy is moving upwards properly and not crouching or slouching or anything like that. Make sure that the alignment of the spine is there. And if you feel any unnecessary feelings or some sensations of nausea or something uncomfortable, realize it's just because you're flushing out some impurities and because the energy is very strong as we flush it upwards. Be patient with yourself and try to resist. Drink a glass of water if you have to and keep on with the meditation. Again, I'm saying if it's a bit too much, because some of you may feel that it's strong and you haven't had this experience before, then just lie down for a couple of minutes, take a rest. When you feel fresh and better again, sit up straight and join us, rejoin the meditation for achieving the best results. Now, I'm going to do this meditation for approximately 30 minutes. If you haven't meditated this long before in one go, then do the best that you can. Again, you can take a break for a few minutes here and again if you have to, but if you can resist to do the whole duration, that would be the best for 30 minutes. Actually, when we do it physically, when we meet and we do the full moon yang spiral, we actually do it in a standing up position for 45 minutes with no break. It's one of those things that creates the powerful yang energy, the standing position. But today we will do it remotely this way for 30 minutes to get you started with this kind of an experience harmoniously as best as we can. So now I hope everything is clear. We know why we're doing this meditation. We understand that we are going to flush this energy from the second chakra. And right now, I can tell you, especially for myself as a Cancer sign astrologically, and Cancer sign is the sign which is dominated. It is actually ruled by the full moon, by the moon itself. So I am very sensitive to the moon, and especially when it's full moon, I can feel the energy almost physical in the air around me. So I can tell you, definitely today, the full moon energy is strong. It's heavy on the second chakra. You can see that it can affect people in a negative way when they are not spiritual. That's why this is not actually, people think it's just some urban myth that full moon, everybody goes crazy. Actually, it's very well known that around the time of the full moon, people can have more problems. They don't sleep very well. They can sleepwalk. If you're a sleepwalker, full moon time, you will sleepwalk for sure. Some people may notice that they have more arguments. During the month, you and your partner are fine, but around the full moon, always arguments come up and people get upset, or you might feel depressed, or, especially you find that in hospitals and police departments and fire departments, they are on high alert in many countries at the time of the full moon, because they just know somehow things go wrong in the full moon more than any other time, because it seems the energy is stronger on Swadhisthana chakra, where we can have a lot of this emotional instability. If you don't know how to control it, you might just go a little bit wild in those days. Instead, in Tantra, we understand it's just energy. Instead of letting it control you, you want to control it and utilize it for spiritual purposes. It's a little bit like when you go surfing, and if you don't know how to surf, a big wave will come and just topple you over, and you'll crash somewhere, and you'll say, wow, that was crazy, I just got damaged from it. But if you're very good in surfing, you'll seek the biggest waves possible and ride them expertly and have a wonderful experience, right? It's all a matter of, can you control this energy, or will it make you go wild and have negative reactions? We are in Tantra controlling it. This is what all spiritual teachers do around the world if they are authentic spiritual and know Tantra, because they want to utilize the energy of the full moon. They don't ignore it. So that's what we're going to do now. Unlike the Hollywood movies, I'm not asking you to just walk hand in hand on the beach in the full moon and just ignore the whole thing and think it's just a pretty sight. I'm asking you to utilize it for the purpose of spiritual evolution. And that's what we're going to do now. So I hope this is clear. Let's take a moment to get ready and prepare. Sit in a comfortable sitting position. Disconnect your phone. Make sure that nobody's going to knock on the door, so tell your family members not to disturb you. If you need to use the bathroom, take a minute now to make a quick visit to the bathroom so you're not disturbed during the meditation. I'm going to set up the music. Take 2 minutes to prepare, and we're going to start shortly. 2 minutes, and we're beginning. Prepare yourself.
So everybody, find a comfortable position for the meditation. Also, please see that your camera is switched on. The energy, influence, also support from Soma will be much stronger. So please check that your camera is on. There's a few of you that don't have that yet. Murat, Lauren, Priant, Per, Dejas, Tamara, Catalina, you just switch it on. Darko, Adriana, Tanel, Kim, Amanda, and Angelina, and so on. So please switch on your camera, place it somewhere in front of you so your hands are free.
Okay, can people hear me?
Yes.
Lisa, can you hear me? All right.
Yes, all good, all good.
All right. Okay. So I'm about to start the meditation. Everyone, sit up straight, eyes closed, relax. I say again, try to go through the meditation for the whole 30 minutes if you can. Try to notice the energy is moving up along your spine during the meditation. And most importantly, concentrate at the top of your head right here and try to feel this strong sensation here at the level of the crown chakra, Sahasrara. It might feel like tingling sensation. It might feel like, unlike me, if you have hair, if you remember when somebody grabs your hair and pulls you from the hair, it a little bit feels like that, like you're being pulled from above like this. then that might be similar sensation, but when Sahasrara is becoming more and more active. You will notice that your mind will be racing and try to find explanations to your sensation. Ignore that and tell the mind to be quiet for those 30 minutes and try to just concentrate on the specific state of consciousness, what you feel on a higher level, at the level of the crown chakra. Let's get ready to begin. Eyes closed, sit up straight. A music will start in a minute, and then we begin our full moon yang meditation. Let's start. How is the sound, Ziggy? Is the sound loud enough?
Yes, it's good.
If anybody needs to up their volume, please do it. The loud sound is better for this.
you.